Good morning, class. I am teacher Maria Cristina, and for today, I am going to discuss about learning plan assessment. Are you ready? Let us first define what is assessment. Anyone who can define what is assessment? So, assessment is a constant cycle of improvement. Data gathering is ongoing. The goal of assessment, whether for an academic department or a program, is to provide, first, a clear conceptualization of intended student of learning outcomes. Second, a description of how these outcomes are assessed and measured. Third, a description of the results obtained from these measures, and lastly, a description of how these results validate current practices or point to changes needed to improve student learning. Did you know that there are 4 steps of the assessment cycle? Step 1. Clearly define and identify the learning outcomes. Each program should formulate between 3 and 5 learning outcomes that describe what students should be able to do or abilities to know, their knowledge, and appreciate or values and attitudes following completion of the program. Step 2. Select appropriate assessment measures and assess the learning outcomes. Multiple ways of assessing the learning outcomes are usually selected and used. Although direct and indirect measures of learning can be used, it is usually recommended to focus on direct measures of learning. Levels of student performance for each outcome is often described and assessed with the use of rubrics. It is important to determine how the data will be collected and who will be responsible for data collection. Results are always reported in aggregate format to protect the confidentiality of the students assessed. Step 3. Analyze the results of the outcomes assessed. It is important to analyze and report the results of the assessments in a meaningful way. Step 4. Adjust or improve programs following the results of the learning outcomes assessed. Assessment results are worthless if they are not used. This step is a critical step of the assessment process. The assessment process has failed if the results do not lead to adjustments or improvements in programs. The results of assessments should be disseminated widely to faculty in the department in order to seek their input on how to improve programs from the assessment results. Designing an assessment plan. Think about one of your courses and ask yourself, how will I know if my students have learned what I want them to? What can they do to practice and demonstrate their learning throughout the course? These are foundational questions for course assessment planning. Consider a course assessment plan as a matrix that maps both formative and summative assessments against your learning objectives and combines a mix of qualitative and quantitative measures. Formative assessments are the lower stakes opportunities to practice learning, such as homework problems, quizzes, group work, and drafts. Formative assessments can be used to scaffold learning as students work toward a summative assessment, the high-stakes evaluation opportunities such as exams and large-scale or final projects. Did you know that there are 5 steps of developing an assessment plan? First, review your course learning objectives and goals. A good assessment plan and robust set of assignments for a course come directly from the course learning objectives and should be designed to help students learn with smaller, lower stakes, formative opportunities and demonstrate their mastery of course content and skills in higher stakes assessments such as exams or large projects. Second is choose and design assessments. At the basic level, we can classify assessments as formative or summative, low stakes or high stakes. Formative assessments check students' learning progress. Formative assessments are often low-stakes practice activities such as homework problems, short quizzes, paper or project drafts, and brief knowledge checks using classroom assessment techniques or CATS. Third, choose the right tools for assessments. For this step in developing your assessment plan, you will consider the different assessment tools available within Canvas and beyond and choose the ones most appropriate for the assessments in your plan, both formative and summative. After learning about the affordances and limitations of these technologies, you will be able to identify and select the tools that align with the goals and needs of your assessment development. Fourth is develop assessment criteria and rubrics just as we align assessments with the course learning objectives. We also align the grading criteria for each assessment with the goals of the unit of content or practice, especially for assignments that cannot be graded through automation the way that multiple choice tests can. Grading criteria articulate what is important in each assessment, what knowledge or skills students should be able to demonstrate, and how they can best communicate that to you. When you share grading criteria with students, you help them understand what to focus on and how to demonstrate their learning successfully. From good assessment criteria, you can develop a grading rubric. Last is determine your feedback strategy. Providing students feedback on their work is crucial to their learning process. Formative feedback helps them to experiment with knowledge and skills, while summative feedback checks for the learning completed toward meeting course goals. That would be all, class. Thank you for listening.